Hello. So today let's talk about unhealthy environments. First of all, my name is Mariah and this is my channel, Kaladara Creations. So throughout my life, I have found myself in many unhealthy environments, and I have chosen to be in many unhealthy environments because I have a tendency to justify things away. To justify the parts of the environment or the energy of a person, I'll just justify it away and make excuses for it. And in the past, I found myself spiritualizing away the way I feel. Like I'd be in an environment and something in me was like, and then I'd be like, well, I should be able to be at peace no matter where I'm at. And I feel like there is a truth to that in a way where, of course, it's important to find your center wherever you are. But I realized you can be in your center and your center is communicating to you that this environment, that it's not supportive for you. Or if you're in an environment and you notice that it's constantly pulling at you and taking you away from your center, then that's also something to look at. But of course, this can be nuanced. We don't want to become avoidant of certain environments just because they trigger parts within us that we don't want to look at. Yet there's a difference here that I'm talking about, where if an environment is just constantly pulling at the parts of yourself that you are ready to let go of, then maybe it's not for you anymore. You know, we can use a very direct example where if someone has had a history of alcoholism and they're trying to stop drinking, if they are constantly spending all of their time in a bar, then it's going to be really hard for them to let go of the habit that they're trying to release. I feel like that's a very direct example, but that can go out in many areas. If you have a group of friends that are constantly participating in behaviors that you feel like you really want to let go of, like they're just constantly gossiping and all of these things, maybe that environment and that friend group is not for you anymore. And of course, you don't necessarily need to just ghost your friends. You could start to poke questions into the conversation. It's very edgy, but I feel this is so important. You know, maybe question it. Be like, I don't want to gossip. Why are we talking about this? You know, ask questions, kind of just state how you're feeling, and perhaps that might spark something within your friends, and maybe they want to shift their behavior, or maybe they get annoyed with you for even bringing that up. The way in which they react or respond to you being true to yourself can help you further decide if this environment, if this group is actually supportive for you, and if you want to remove yourself from it. I've spent a lot of time lingering in environments that just weren't supportive, and take a step back, I say I spent a lot of time. And if you really look at it that way, that is what we're doing. Our time and energy is so precious. So if you're spending your time, you're spending your energy in these environments, and if they're not supportive, then why waste your precious energy? And I've just become so discerning with who and where I spend my energy. And it's a constant process of checking inward and really listening to myself when I'm in an environment, when I'm around people, really seeing what feels like a yes, what feels like a no, what feels true for me, and then moving from that space. Because sometimes I've entered environments and it's felt like a no for me, but then I can see my mind start to swoop in and be like, oh, but you know, maybe it's okay, maybe this, yada, yada, and it'll tell its stories. And then I start to gravitate and orient towards the head, and then we'll continue to go into the environment when the gut feeling was a no, and then later on it will be revealed to me that the no was telling me something. And then just having grace for my mistakes, for an opportunity to learn, to refine my listening skills, to refine the way in which I move from the space that is speaking to me constantly. Discernment is so important. I also noticed that I used to tell myself this narrative of everything starts inward, my external is a reflection of my internal, which I feel is true. Yet, it's just how you hold these truths. And I feel that the way I used to orient to it was to justify this justifying habit. Once again, I used to justify external situations, people, environments that were not good. I'll use the word good for the lack of a better word to explain. Going into the topic of good and bad is a whole thing that we don't need to do. But I'll say these environments weren't good for me. So I would then tell myself that it's just a reflection of my external. And if I want the environment to change, I need to change internally, which the way I was orienting to it was a bit more of a controlling way, being like, I want to control this environment by changing myself internally, where instead recognizing that I could change myself internally and change the environment, not by controlling the one that is directly happening right now, but by shifting focus and making a change occur externally by generating a new choice internally through orienting to a new way of understanding the the world a new belief, and then that choice ripples out from that internal recalibration, and then I shift the environment through different choices. I choose different people to be around. I choose a different environment to be in. I choose to show up in the world differently. These are ways you can shift the external. And of course, there are some situations in our life where we can't just turn away from it and avoid it, because here what I'm talking about is not avoidance. It's such a delicate line. I feel that anything spoken can be taken in any way depending on how you perceive it and how you use it, because what I'm saying here could be used as avoidance. You could be like, oh, I don't like this, shift, just constantly avoiding what's happening. It's so important to really be honest with yourself and to check in and be like, okay, am I trying to shift to avoid something that I need to look at, or is this shift actually supportive for me? And that's one of the reasons why I feel like it's so important for you to learn how to listen to your own intuition and to not just take blanket advice from anybody on the internet. Don't just take what I'm saying and be like, okay, I need to move to a new country. I need to do this. Like, I'm not saying that, because sometimes we hear advice on the internet and then we use it to affirm a part of our mind that wants to avoid. It's so delicate. So it's really being honest with yourself and really trying to recognize the truth of the situation, of what is being communicated to you. Because some situations, like staying in a relationship where there is an abusive dynamic, that is an environment that is best for you to leave. I have done this in the past where I've been in abusive dynamics and I've just tried to change internally, thinking that if I change, then the relationship will change, it'll get better. But then that's me avoiding the reality of it and avoiding my own personal responsibility to choose different. So in that situation, if you're in an abusive relationship, then the choice is to change environments, to change frame. And that's all I'm going to speak to on that today. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you have a beautiful day and a beautiful deepening of your awareness, of your recognition of your own patterns, of your noticing of what the fuck is going on internally, and of your ability to choose from a space of responsibility, of really recognizing that you are incredibly powerful and have the responsibility to choose your life. So if you're not liking the way your life is unfolding, choose different. And I know that phrase can be said so easy, and it's not always an easy thing. Most of the time, it's not easy, yet it's very true in many, many spaces of your life. In most spaces, I won't say all, but in most spaces, you can choose different. So I encourage you to question yourself, to question life, to question everything, bro. To get real deep in reflection, yet to not lose yourself in reflection. It's always such a delicate, delicate dance. It truly is. Okay, till next time.